Hola amigos y bienvenidos a Carried Away Travels. Do you like my Spanish? If you're planning on heading down to the Riviera Maya area of Mexico, this video is for you. I'm going to tell you all about the popular Tulum Xtreme tour through Aventuras Mayas, let you know what to expect, and most importantly, how to prepare. Daniel and I just spent several incredible but way too short days down in the Playa del Carmen area of Mexico, and we had so much fun. If you are planning on exploring that area, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I'm going to be sharing not only this video, but a couple other videos about things we did in that area up and down the coast from Cancun to Tulum. So make sure you're tuned in so you don't miss any of those. By the way, if this is your first time here, I'm Carrie and I share helpful travel tips, itineraries, gear recommendations, and more so you can always have the perfect trip. My goal is to answer all of your questions and minimize the hassle of planning so that you can always go in prepared and just have an absolutely awesome time. If those sound like the kind of videos you need more of in your life, that's another great reason to hit that subscribe button, so I'd encourage you to do that now before we dive in. So like I said, Daniel and I just spent several days down in the Riviera Maya part of Mexico, specifically in Playa del Carmen. That's about an hour south of Cancun, and if you're visiting there, you will most likely fly into the Cancun airport just for reference. Now, we knew that we wanted to do some tours outside of our resort, and so when we saw this Tulum Xtreme tour, I knew that we needed to do this because it included ziplining, rappelling, snorkeling in a cenote, and a trip to the ancient Mayan ruins of Tulum, which was on my bucket list, and that just seemed perfect for us. However, Aventuras Mayas has a number of different tours that you can choose from, and they mix and match snorkeling not only in the cenote but in a lagoon, the zip lining, ATV tours, and this tour of the ruins. So you can pick a tour with them that fits your personal preferences. This just happened to be the one we really wanted to do. Something to keep in mind is there are several companies selling a Tulum Xtreme tour, so I just want to clarify this tour we booked through Aventuras Mayas, and so if you're looking at a different company, they may offer some slightly different things. We did this tour on Aventura Maya's private property. They had their own cenote, they had their own zip lines, and then we went off to the ruins. But just keep that in mind, if you book a different tour through a different company, your experience may not be the same. So this particular tour only cost us like $134 per person. They do have a promotional rate going on right now. I think it's normally about $150. And if you're coming from Cancun, it is a little bit extra just because of that extra transportation cost. But we got so much for that price. Our tour included round-trip transportation, a bilingual guide, a tour of Tulum National Park, snorkeling in an underground cenote, zip lining and rappelling in the jungle, a buffet lunch and beverages, medical insurance, which I didn't even realize was included when we booked this, but good to know afterwards, and then taxes. So the only thing we needed to pay for once we were there was any souvenirs we wanted and then tips for the guide. We also kind of looked out and ended up getting a private tour with our guide Ivan. I felt kind of bad because I do realize that when it's just two people, his tips were probably really low to the day compared to when he has like a group of 15. But we really enjoyed it. It just made things go so much faster. I had set aside a whole day for this tour and it only took us about 6 hours because we didn't have to wait for anyone. Now we did go in September, so that is definitely the off season. If you go during a peak season, you may be in a group of 15. Keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and talk about the individual parts of this tour so you can know what to expect. So first things first, the day before your tour, they're going to contact you and tell you what time to be ready for pickup. They will give you a specific time and you need to be at your hotel lobby or whatever designated pickup point right on time. They may be a few minutes late, but you don't want to miss your pickup. For us, they picked us up around 7:10 a.m., which was actually later than I thought it was going to be. So that was nice. The day before, we were picked up at 5:15 a.m. So 7:10 was good for us. Ivan had our name on a list, which always makes me feel more comfortable when they have my name and they don't just ask who you're waiting for, which, by the way, there are a lot of scam tours in Mexico. So I would be very leery of getting in a van with anyone that does not have your name on a list. Just saying. So Ivan picked us up 7:10 a.m. There were a couple other people from our hotel getting in, and the van was very clean. They had bottled water for us. It was air conditioned. Wonderful transportation. From there, we hit the road and drove probably about 30 minutes down the road to kind of a waypoint. They had a specific, like, Maya Aventuras hub, and everyone else that was in our van went with different guides. We stayed with Ivan, and this was a spot where we could go to the bathroom, which, by the way, the bathrooms were really nice, both here and at the main hub. I was actually impressed at how clean and pretty and well kept the restrooms were. So they had really nice restrooms here. They also had like coffee and some breakfast items that we could have. We'd already eaten, but just so you know, that is available. After that, we got back in the van with Ivan, and he took us to the main Aventuras Mayas hub, where they have a big souvenir shop and then all of their main activities. We started out our day at the cenote, so right away we had to change into our swimsuits. They had nice changing rooms, and they also provided lockers. And it was a tight squeeze, but there was enough room for our carry-on backpack, so we were able to put all of our extra stuff in there. We grabbed our towels, our flip-flops, and our GoPro, and then we headed down to the cenote. Now, for the cenote, they give you a mask and a life vest, but you do not get a snorkel. And that did throw me off because I kept wanting to breathe underwater. So keep that in mind. If you have your own snorkel, that might be something you want to bring. Also, the life jackets were not normal life jackets. They were like the ones you have on airplanes. He pointed that out. So it had the little straw where you could inflate it yourself, and it was smaller. It worked just fine, but that did make me chuckle a little bit when they handed those to us. And then you will go down a set of stairs into their cenote, and theirs is in like an underground cave that is covered. If you've seen pictures of cenotes, you might have seen the ones where the whole thing's collapse and you can just look straight down into the cenote. This one, it is in a cave where just part of the entrance collapsed, but they have stairs that are very safe leading you down into it, and they've built it up just enough to make sure you're not slipping all over the place. They have lights so you can see. There are cubbies for you to put your stuff right at the entrance too. They have it really nice. Now I will warn you, there are a ton of little fruit bats in here, and normally I would not say this, probably, but they're really cute. I feel like if I was not on an adventure tour and I ran into a bat, I would probably scream, but because they warned me, I was able to be like, "Aw, look at the cute fruit bats." But there are a lot of them in here, so just be warned. There are also a ton of stalactites and stalagmites, which makes this such a cool experience. So our guide led us through the cenote, and it is very cold. I will warn that as well. It is a nice chilly temperature, but you do have to watch where you're swimming because so many of those stalagmites and stalactites are just right there. So you have to watch your feet underwater and you have to watch your head. I actually did bonk my head, and they said it was a Mayan sacrifice because I conked it pretty good. So do be careful. I am 5'4". I don't remember the last time I had to watch my head somewhere, but you do need to watch your head. That would be my only negative about this, but it was so cool to be able to look down and see these stalagmites just coming up, just huge from the bottom of this pool. The water is so clear, and there's little catfish swimming around too. There's not a ton of fish in here, but they do have catfish, and they have the bottom lit up in a lot of places, and then it just fades to black, and it's really dark and kind of scary. But then you also have all these cool stalactites coming from above. It's just a very unique experience. ice. And I really like that. I've never been swimming in a cave, for one, but that was just fun and it was unexpected too. So I really enjoyed that. That probably lasted for about 15-20 minutes. It wasn't a long tour, but I felt like it was a good amount of time for what the cenote had to offer. One more thing I want to mention about the cenote is you cannot wear sunscreen. It is fresh water, and I guess the cenotes do supply water to some local people, and just sunscreen can be really harmful in general. So Mexico has a lot of really strict laws on sunscreen. So you cannot wear sunscreen in the cenote, but as soon as you're out of there, you can put that on and you should be fine because when you're in the cenote, it's covered. You're not exposed to any sun. So once you're done with that snorkeling portion, you will have plenty of time to go get dried off and change and get ready for the rest of your day. For us, that meant heading straight to the zip lines. Now, I thought their zip lines were really interesting. We've done a few different zip line tours through like the rainforest. This was jungle. It was a little different. I will say these weren't like high thrill zip lines. They weren't the longest things ever. They were pretty straightforward, but they were fun and they had a couple unique ways to go on the zip line that I have never seen before. So before you get on the zip lines, they're obviously going to outfit you with your harness and your helmet. They were really fast about it, but very professional. They double checked everything. All of the gear was in good condition. Really appreciated the double checks. And then at every zip line departure point, they also kind of tugged on everything and made sure it was good to go. So that was great. There are 5 zip lines in total, if I remember correctly. And the first couple are pretty much just you climb up like 5 stories and then zip down. And they let you go upside down if you wanted or do whatever funky thing you wanted. Like, it's a pretty view. It wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't super long. But if you like zip lining, half the fun of being up there is just being high and zipping along and seeing what there is to see. We didn't see any, but apparently there are often monkeys in these trees, so definitely keep an eye out for wildlife. They also mentioned jaguars if you get there early in the morning. But once we got to the 3rd tower, they said we could either go like straight back or go the long way, and of course we wanted to go the long way. And so we had the opportunity to do a couple different kinds of zip lining. There is one zip line where you can go Superman style, and that was so fun. They will completely switch up your harness and they'll put you in like this big, almost looks like a blanket or like a hammock. It's just from like chest to toes. They'll get you set up and then you have to, well, in my case, I kind of had to hold it up because it was down to my toes and climb the next couple flights of stairs, but then they will hook you up so that you are on your stomach. And so you can Superman out there, you can, put your arms out or whatever, but you are facing the jungle floor. That was so cool. I have never seen a zip line that did that before. And then on the last one, you had the option to go in an actual hammock, like a normal hammock like you would just have in your backyard. So you're like laying in it, but they've rigged it up to go zip lining. So that one was really fun because 2 people could go together. So Daniel and I got to do this last hammock zip line together, and it was just so fun. It was a very different experience, and we were cracking up the whole time because it was a very lopsided hammock. Um, but that was really fun. So even though it wasn't like crazy thrills, I really liked the unique aspect of it. The last part of this section is an optional rappelling wall, which I've only done rappelling twice in my life, and I think both of them were in Costa Rica like 2 years ago, so it's been a hot minute. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. It ended up just being like you climbed another 5-story tower and then you just kind of dropped off the tower. So I will say that was a little bit disappointing and ended up being just kind of a slow, jerky process that I probably personally could have done without. But if you really like dropping off of towers, you may have a fantastic time. Just for me, that was probably my least favorite part of this experience. When we were done with the rappelling, they took off all of our harnesses and then we got to go to lunch. They did have a small buffet style lunch with just traditional foods. They had rice and black beans and chicken. They had a couple different refreshing drinks, a salad bar. Like it was a nice spread. And we probably had about 20 minutes just to sit and enjoy our food. Ivan was not rushing us at all. We just took the time we wanted and then we kind of moved forward with our tour. I would definitely encourage you to hydrate. It is hot here. I believe the day we visited, it was like 90 degrees, and with humidity, it was like 100 something. So just keep that in mind. You do not want to get heat exhaustion. So I would definitely recommend you take your time and rest as much as you need to before moving on to the next part of your tour. For lunch, we also had a few minutes to look around their souvenir shop, and if we wanted to, we could purchase photos from the tour so far. They had photos from the cenote and the zip line that they'd come up and shown us during lunch. And so you could either buy them individually for, I want to say like $35 for the cenote and $45 for the zip line, or you could get both for $55. They just emailed that to us about 2 days later. So I have all the digital copies and then I can do with them what I want. So I thought that was really nice. Once we were done in the shop there, we hopped back in the van and Ivan drove us down to Tulum so that we could tour the ruins there. Now, I thought I knew what to expect at the Tulum National Park. I had absolutely no idea. This area is just so built up with tourist attractions and shops. I was actually kind of shocked. Like in my head, I'm thinking national park, probably a little isolated, quiet. There's just so much stuff at the entrance here. So there's a big welcome center, does have air conditioning, very nice. And at that point, Ivan left us to go with a different guide, Aubert, and he was the one who took us through the ruins and he was awesome too. He's Mayan and so he was teaching us some Mayan words and then quizzing us on them. So it was fun too, but we had to walk for quite a ways before we actually got in the park through all these different shops. There's different street performers and people dressed up in like these crazy headdresses with parrots. But there's just so much you can do there. And then you walk down this really long path, which I'm saying this now because I think we kind of lost track of time while we were talking with him and walking down here. When it was time to come back, we were hustling because we realized we were going to be late and we felt kind of bad. We didn't want to be the people that were late. It is a long path. Like you probably need a good 10 minutes at the end of your tour to come back here because your tour includes like a 45-minute guided portion and then they give you 45 minutes to explore on your own before you're supposed to be back at the bus or the van. We only allotted like 10 minutes total to walk back and we needed 10 just for this pathway. So putting that out there, you will eventually start seeing like the walls of the ruins. They will make sure you have all the necessary tickets to get in. And then you will start going through this really beautiful jungle at first. And keep an eye out because there is a decent bit of wildlife here, especially iguanas. There are so many iguanas. And then the whole time your guide's just going to be telling you about Tulum. I remembered a little bit about it from like my history lessons back in high school, but it was fun to have that refresher, just learning about this specific community, why it was eventually abandoned, the cultural significance of it. It was all a lot of fun. Robert also asked us if we'd ever seen the movie The Road to El Dorado, and he was like, "That's a great movie." And he specifically pointed out some things like from that movie that were like applicable to the ruins here, which had me cracking up because I figured that movie was just absolutely way off. Apparently, they did some things right. But one thing I could not get over here was the views. The views of the ocean here are just absolutely mind-blowing. There are no filters on these videos I'm showing you right now. This blue water, I almost could not believe it was real. It was absolutely stunning. And our guide told us that this city was not actually called Tulum. When the Spanish explorers came in, they were trying to ask what the city was called. And I guess Tulum means wall. They were pointing at this stone wall that goes all the way around the city, but the city's name was Zama, which is like sunrise. And it was named that because of the gorgeous sunrise they saw coming up over this ocean every single morning. And I was just absolutely blown away. We spent quite a bit of our free time just walking along the cliffs here and looking out at this beautiful blue water, this white sand. It was one of the prettiest things I have ever seen in my life. I don't have enough words to describe it, but what an incredible piece of nature. While we were still with our guide as well, he was pointing out different buildings and letting us know their significance. You can see carvings in a lot of them, and he was explaining like what the carvings meant, their cultural and spiritual significance to the Mayan people. And so it was really great to have that just extra knowledge. It's one thing to just walk through on your own, it's another thing to have someone who is directly connected to this culture explaining how important it is and what it means. And so we really appreciated the guided portion as well. And then we had that 45 minutes just to wander, and it went so fast. I will warn you, it just disappeared like that, and we were hustling back. So I would encourage you to take plenty of pictures while you're with your guide. I assumed 45 minutes was going to be enough time to go back and take all the pictures I wanted. That was kind of a mistake. Take pictures while you're listening, really soak it all in, and then I would choose a couple things that you really want to spend your time on for that last 45 minutes, and then make sure you unfortunately leave about 15 minutes to get back to the main meeting point. From there, Ivan took us directly back to our hotel, and I think we were back by like 2 o'clock. So we still had a nice long day just to relax and enjoy the resort. However, for me personally, I had not hydrated, so I was very much not feeling well. So that's yet another reason I would just say drink tons of water. You will have access to nice restrooms all day, which is great. And they have like a cooler of waters, bottled waters for you in the van. So do not hesitate to just guzzle water and make sure that you take care of yourself and don't make my mistakes. To wrap up this tour, I just want to talk about a few specific things to bring with you and keep in mind so that you are prepared for this tour. First up, make sure you have comfortable shoes. You will be doing a lot of walking around the Tulum ruins. It is also super toasty, so I would definitely recommend a comfortable, breathable shoe. If you have an action camera, 100% bring that. That's going to be great for the cenote and the zip line. So you are going to need your own chest strap or helmet strap. I believe they said like the helmet straps were preferred. We unfortunately did not bring those with us, and so we couldn't take any videos on the zip line. So definitely bring that if you have it. I would also recommend you bring some cash for tips. And then, of course, if you want to do any shopping at that market outside of Tulum, it's probably better to have cash just because anytime you use your card, you are going to have some international fees. And of course, for the cenote, you're going to want your swimsuit and your own towel. They do not provide towels. Depending on which point of your day you do the cenote at, you may also want just like a fresh change of clothes. If you've been sweating in your other set the whole day, you may not want to put on that same pair, so it might be a smart idea just to bring an extra set. Finally, bring moisture wicking clothes and some sort of sun protection. I wore just like athletic leggings and a breathable tank top, but I also had my sun protection hoodie. I was very glad I had that at Tulum. You are going to be in several areas where you're just exposed to a lot of sun and you can get burnt really quick, even if you have that sunscreen on. So I would definitely recommend you wear breathable clothes and just have like a layer you can put on just in case it gets extra hot. Ivan also brought an umbrella for us because there was possible rain on the forecast, but this worked out so nicely for sunshade too. I don't typically travel with an umbrella, but I would say it would be a good idea to have some sort of overhead protection, whether that's a hat or like a portable umbrella for when you're walking around the ruins of Tulum. And that is all for the Tulum Extreme Tour. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this was helpful for you, but if you do have any additional questions, please feel free to drop those below. I'll be happy to answer anything for you based off of our experience. Their website also has a decent bit of information as well, and you can check out their various tours on their website. As always, I also have a full written blog post about this if you want to go check that out, skim through it for any additional information. I'd encourage you to do that. You can read that at my website, cochraneredding.com, under the Carried Away Travels blog. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Carried Away Travels for more adventures like this in the future. Thank you so much for stopping by, and happy travels.